What's up, guys? How y'all doing today? Because, baby, if your name is Sean Diddy Combs, you are not doing well. The plot has thickened, and now people are starting to wonder, did Donald Trump just play Diddy for a fool, or is there something way bigger happening behind the scenes? Now, if you're just catching up, here's the deal. There's been a whole lot of noise around this potential presidential pardon, and not just whispers. We're talking Rolling Stone coverage. According to reports, money has already changed hands between Diddy's team and people connected to Trump's camp, supposedly to help fast-track this pardon. Now, let's be clear, they're not saying the money went directly to Trump himself, but Diddy's reportedly been paying people close to Trump just to get that pardon on the table. A little too cozy, don't you think? Trump himself once said something like, well, if Diddy's being treated unfairly,
and no longer
maybe
has a
I'd consider
voice who will pursue
and
justice for her accusation.
That with a resounding
As
no,
of the taken against
especially
Diddy,
with all the heat
no
still
expansion of
coming
the
off
investigation,
Ghislaine
no
Maxwell
isolation
mess.
orders,
And yes,
no
we're gonna
equipment
talk about her
access,
too,
no
because
suspension
did
of
y'all
attorney
know Trump
communication.
Just had Ghislaine Maxwell transferred from her Florida facility to a federal prison in Texas. And not just any prison, this place is known as Club Fed. It's a minimum security, luxury-style prison. Think country club with bars, white-collar, wealthy inmates, not exactly hard time. So people are saying that even her transfer is starting to look like a favor, a sign of protection. But let's stay focused, because Diddy's story, it's about to take a wild turn. Everybody's been talking about this pardon like nonstop. I reported on it back in December, again in January, and again in February, and y'all called me crazy. That could never happen. But now it's hit mainstream media. And just when you think you know where this is going, here comes a new theory, one that should have MAGA cheering and anyone hoping for Diddy's downfall breathing a little easier. Here's what's floating around. Multiple victims have been writing letters, and not just to prosecutors or judges, but directly to Trump. Yep, they're going above and beyond. And according to insiders, no one actually wants Diddy out. The theory is that Trump might be setting Diddy up to take the fall, and at the same time shifting the spotlight away from the Epstein-Maxwell mess that's creeping back up. When I first heard this, I thought, this is a stretch. But then I read the latest Variety interview with Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, and suddenly things started clicking into place. So in this Variety article, they sat down with Mark Agnifilo, and the headline, Diddy's lawyer on a Trump pardon, why Sean Combs should be freed from jail, and his beautiful prison essays. First of all, his beautiful prison essays. Sir, we don't care if he's writing Shakespeare behind bars. He's still behind bars for a reason. But let's move on. They asked Mark point blank, how likely is it that Trump pardons Diddy? Have you been in communication with the administration? And y'all, his answer, wild. He said, and I quote, I'm not involved in that in the least. I have literally no idea. There are times I think there's nothing to it, and there are times I think it's just rumor mill stuff. But I do not purport to know the president's mind. I really don't know. Excuse me? You're not involved in the pardon discussions at all. Your client's name is being dragged through every media outlet about a presidential pardon, and now suddenly you're like, my name's Bennett and I ain't in it. Make it make sense. And it gets even weirder. When asked if seeking a pardon was an official part of Diddy's legal strategy, Agnifilo flat out said no. He claimed, my business is very focused on the case alone, the merit of the case, and what happened in the courtroom. I don't do anything else. Now pause right there. If you're leading a federal defense team and your client is in serious trouble, the kind of trouble where a presidential pardon is even on the table, how is that not part of your job? Presidential pardons don't happen over DMs or WhatsApp messages. They require coordination, legal counsel, strategy, paperwork. And yet Mark is saying he has no clue what's going on. Nah, that doesn't pass the smell test. Then comes another bombshell from the same interview. Variety asked Mark about the sudden firing of Maureen Comey, the lead federal prosecutor on Diddy's case, just 2 weeks after the verdict. Her dismissal shocked everybody.
And no longer has a
They
voice
asked,
who will
"How do you
pursue
react
justice
to
for
that?
her
Have you
accusation."
spoken to her?
As of
Mark
the taken
replied,
against
"I
Diddy.
haven't spoken
No
to
expansion
Maury.
of the
It made me
investigation,
sad. I
no
like her.
isolation
I think
orders,
she's a very
no
good
equipment
lawyer.
access,
She was my
no
adversary
suspension of
in the
attorney
case,
communication.
obviously, but we had a lot of respect for each other." He even added, "I knew her father, James Comey, very well. It was sad. She wants to be a career prosecutor, and now she won't get that chance. I don't think it had anything to do with the case." So again, just like with the pardon, Mark is playing the I don't know anything card. But let's be real, none of this feels random. None of this feels like a coincidence. And that's where Petra Trapp, a writer with very sharp insight, comes in with a theory that's hard to ignore. Petra pointed out that not only are victims writing letters to the judge, they're also bombarding Donald Trump directly. Think about that. With Trump in the middle of his own mess, with court cases pending left and right, every letter matters. In Diddy's name, it's become radioactive. According to Petra and a few other insiders I've heard from, these letters are saying one thing loud and clear: Diddy cannot be trusted on the outside. They're calling him a menace to society, a threat to women, a danger that should never walk free again. And y'all, it's not just the victims saying this. Even within MAGA circles, there's a growing sentiment that pardoning Diddy would be a bad look for Trump. Real bad. Remember, MAGA is still reeling from the Epstein fallout. They do not want Trump associated with anyone accused of similar crimes, and Diddy's charges aren't exactly light. If Trump were to pardon Diddy, in a lot of people's eyes, it would look like he's turning a blind eye to sexual abuse and violent misconduct. On the other hand, sending Diddy away for a long time, that would let Trump reclaim some moral high ground, especially among voters who've grown uneasy about his past associations. Now here's where it gets interesting. Trump apparently has a new guy on the inside, someone feeding him details the public didn't get to see during the trial. Because remember, not everything made it onto the official record. A lot of arguments happened behind closed doors, evidence the jury never saw, witness statements the press never heard. If Trump's inner circle is getting all of that, and the picture they're seeing is even worse than what we already know, it could change everything. And let's not forget, in less than 24 hours, all of this has hit the fan. Mark Agnifilo is publicly distancing himself from the pardon conversation. Suddenly, the man leading Diddy's defense team doesn't know anything about what his client might be cooking up with the Trump camp. That's not just odd, it's strategic. Meanwhile, Rolling Stone is reporting that money has definitely changed hands, not rumors, facts. Diddy's team has allegedly funneled money to people connected to Trump, but again, not to Trump himself. And that's key, because if Trump hasn't taken a dime directly, he can still play this either way. So now people are wondering, is Trump running the oldest game in the book, the bait and switch? Because here's the truth. Trump hasn't signed anything. He hasn't officially offered a pardon. He only said he'd be open to it if Diddy's being treated unfairly. That leaves the door cracked, just enough to keep Diddy hopeful and keep the money flowing. But what if this is all a setup? What if Trump never planned to help Diddy at all? What if he's using Diddy as a sacrificial distraction?
Present, and no longer has a voice who will pursue justice for her accusation. As of the taken against Diddy, no expansion of the investigation, no isolation orders, no equipment access, no suspension of attorney communication.
Justice again. And Diddy, he's left holding the bag, wondering how he got played so hard. And listen, for all the talk about Diddy buying his way out, let's be real. If that money never actually reached Trump, then what Diddy really did was donate to a bunch of grifters with access, consultants, strategists, lobbyists, people who probably smiled, nodded, promised the world, and then pocketed the check. So now the question is, did Donald Trump just play Diddy, or did Diddy play himself? Thinking his money, power, and influence would shield him from accountability like it always has. Because let's be clear, there's still a real chance that Trump does pardon him. No one knows for sure. But when your own attorney is stepping back, when media reports say you've been spending money but getting no real response, and when your name is a political liability in every circle, it's not looking good. And that's why this whole situation feels like a setup. Because if Trump wanted to pardon Diddy, there'd be signals, there'd be strategy, there'd be control. But right now, there's chaos, confusion, and silence. That's not how presidential pardons usually work, not when they're real. So what are we watching unfold here? Is this the fall of a mogul who overplayed his hand, or is this just act two of an even bigger story? At the end of the day, all we know is this. The narrative is shifting fast, and all those rumors that once sounded ridiculous, they're starting to make sense. The bait has been dangled, the switch may be in motion. And Diddy, he just might be the one left out in the cold. Let me know what you think in the comments. This story is very much developing, and you know I'm going to stay on top of it. I might even go live soon to break more of it down, but in the meantime, hit that like button, show your girl some love, and subscribe so you don't miss the next update. Talk to y'all soon.